Spark plugs. Let's talk about spark plugs, because man, for years and years and years I've witnessed, seen and heard of people wasting spark plugs for no reason whatsoever. So let's talk about them, and I'll try my best not to go off topic, because you're probably thinking, why are you talking about spark plugs? Well, as we know, these 1/5 scale and some other scales of RC cars do have petrol engines in them. Obviously, nitros have glow plugs, but the petrol ones have spark plugs, and they do a spark. We'll talk about how they work later on, but maybe not in this video. We'll see. But I want to talk about why not to waste them and how to clean them, because I see, I used to do motocross. When I was into motocross, I go down the track and I'd always see people taking out a plug, throwing it in the bin. Man, throwing it in the bin and putting a new one in. There's nothing wrong with the other plug. It just gets a bit dirty. Gets a little bit of oil on it now and again. Now with a two-stroke, they obviously get quite dirty sometimes, depending on how much ticking over you do and how much oil you run in your petrol. Now, you don't need to throw them away. When you hear people say, see, when they threw them away on the track, I used to go in the bin and take out the plugs and take them home because they were still good. Yeah. Obviously, when you're racing, you want everything to be optimum, so you put a new plug in every race. That's fair enough, but there's no need to throw away the old ones. You can use them for practicing or whatever. Going back to RC cars, when you hear people say that plug's fouled, and then they throw it away and put a new plug in, that is ridiculous, because all fouling is, that's just when it gets a bit of oil in it, and I get a bit of carbon built up on the plug, on the tip of it there, the electrode goes up, you get a bit of oil, bit of carbon built up, and if it bridges that gap, it won't spark and it won't work. All you got to do is clean it. Very simple. Get a wire brush. There's many different ways of cleaning spark plugs, and some people here are going to say, shouldn't do it that way because it damages it, shouldn't do it that way, you shouldn't do it this way, etc, etc. All of those which I just don't care about, because I've used all the different methods over the last 25 years and I've never had any problems whatsoever. My favourite way of cleaning a spark plug is to use wire brush. Wire brush and a bit of brake cleaner cleans it right off, or just wire brush and a cloth. Simple as that. So let's have a look at different plugs and I'll explain all about them. Just for a little bit of context so you get an idea, this plug is something that you would find on this one here, and also that one. That's an NGK, that's an original Japanese NGK, that one. That's quite an old one, but I keep it because it's in good condition and it still works. You can see there the gap is very, very, very small, and it's actually quite a good example that would need to be re-gapped. I don't know why it's that small, but that's actually quite a good example of a bad plug. Now there's a bit of dirt or carbon between the gap there. The electrode is the little skinny thing popping up from the middle, and there's a little bit of carbon or something in between. Now that wouldn't work, this plug would not work, but it's easy to fix that. And to be able to fix this problem, all you've got to do is this. I was going to show you the different plugs, but I'll show you the different plugs in a minute. I just want to show you how to clean a plug, yeah? So if someone says this plug's fouled or whatever, or if your plug's not working, and you take it apart, this is actually a really good example. You take it out, sorry, and it looks a bit like that. The gap's a bit too small. You're supposed to get feeler gauges to put the gap properly, but we're not talking about gaps. I want to talk about just general here. So if your gap's a bit too small for some reason, just get a screwdriver, put it underneath it. You can use feeler gauges, you can use whatever. Don't know whether that's actually showing up there on the old camera. Please focus. Mr. Camera, please focus. Mr. Camera. There we go. So you put the screwdriver in between there and you just twist it a little bit, and now you'll see that our gap has become bigger, which is what we want. Now, to get the proper gap, if you're really going by the book, you find out what the gap is for the plug on that particular engine, and then you get some feeler gauges and you put it in between and you do it to whatever foul that it's meant to be. But for this purpose, I normally just have a random rough gap, because that will work no problem. It will work. And then to clean that, all you got to do, get your wire brush, give it a bit of a brush here. Now this is where some people, they're going to go, shouldn't use a wire brush because it damages the electrode, it damages this. All bollocks, all absolute rubbish. Doesn't do any damage. You know, a little bit of a wire brush there, look, just get the dirt out from inside there. And there's loads of dirt in there actually, because this actual plug came out of an old 4-stroke generator that was burning quite a lot of oil. And so there's a lot of oil and dirt in there, but we got most of that out now. and that actually cleaned that up really well. Then all you got to do is get a bit of a cloth, wipe it in the cloth. You can use a bit of brake cleaner if you want, a bit of WD-40 will be alright, carb cleaner, you know, anything like that. It will clean it up nicely. And there we go. Now we've got a nice clean plug, and that will work perfectly well. But anyway, I got a little bit off track there. But what I was going to do is I was going to show you. So we've got 3 plugs the same. You find them in your small little 15cc engines, just like the Savage Octane, the little engine in there. This is a bit of a bigger plug. You'll probably find a plug like this in a lawnmower, perhaps a strimmer, something like that, 50cc engine. And then this one is a car plug out of a real full-size 1 litre car, actually out of a Kia Picanto. 1 litre petrol engine, obviously, but just for you to realise that they're all different shapes and sizes of plugs. Some plugs you can get the you get more than one electrode and all kinds of things, you know, some of them, but we're just on about basic plugs. Now I want to tell you, don't waste them. I want to just get back on the topic of please don't waste them. Now, when someone says that plug has failed and they throw it in the bin, that's a waste. I'll tell you why. Because just because the plug's got dirty, if it's got a bit of oil on it. I mean, I've seen a few videos recently of people running 1/5 scale, 1/5 scale RC cars, right? And they just, you know, they're running it up and down, and they come back and they say, oh, it's not running very well, that plug must be fouled. Fair enough. Unlikely in my opinion, but fair enough. They take that plug out, they look at it, and honestly, it looks bloody like that one. It looks brand new, just like that one, right? Then they go, that's no good. They put it in a bin and put another new one in. What a waste! An absolute waste, you lot. Please don't get in that habit. And the reason I'm making this video is because I'm hoping people see this, so that you don't see them other videos of people doing that and wasting spark plugs when they're perfectly good. Now, all you got to do, if you think it is a bit dirty, well, you can look at it for a start. And if you look at it and it's fine, you don't need to clean it. But you can clean it anyway. There's no harm in cleaning it anyway. Just clean it, as I said, and put it back. If you want to, you probably should check the gap. Get a set of feeler gauges. But as I say, a gap like that will be perfectly fine. If you just want your engine to run, you don't need to make the gap perfect. But if you want the engine to run at its optimum, then you will need to find out what the gap is supposed to be. Get the feeler gauges, put the gap at the proper gap spec, and then go from there. Now, if you do get a plug, you got your plug and your engine either stops running and it won't start no more because it's so dirty, it's so fouled, or you take it out to have a look at it and it's a bit dirty, a bit oily. There's no need to throw it away. All you got to do is clean it, as I just said, and that will be perfectly fine. Actually, spark plugs, they do last a long time. I had exactly the same spark plug. I had a quad bike when I was a kid, and it literally had the same plug in it. I used it every single day, that quad bike. After school I'd go on it, the weekends I'd go on it, every day, and it had the same plug in it for more than 10 years, and that is no lie. And I've also had real full-size cars that I've never changed the plug on, and I had them for bloody years. I had one car for about 9 years, never changed the plugs on it, and it ran absolutely fine. They will last a long time. So, but they do foul. They do foul though. So, you know, I'm just saying, just because you think, well, it might stop working soon, I'll put a new one in. If you do that, that's fine. But just keep your old one as a spare. Put it in a box, yeah? Because that new one might fail. And then you can put the old one back in, and at least you can use your car. Do you know what I mean? No need to waste the plugs, the old plugs. I just can't stand waste. But I can't stand it when people give out misinformation like that, you know. Oh, that one's a bit dirty, I've got to throw it in the bin, it's no good anymore. I've actually seen people do that. They take a plug out, it's a bit oily, and they go, it's no good now. They put a new one in. Massive, massive waste. So how do you know if your plug isn't any good? Well, I'll tell you how you know. You might get either a yellow spark. That means it could be points, it could be something like that, not giving quite as good of a magnetic field / electric as they should do, or the plug could be on its way out. You could have a spark. When you test it, you could have a spark, but it could be an intermittent one. If you've got an intermittent one, that's also a sign that the plug could be on its way out. They do break down on the inside the ceramic coating, that white bit. They do break down, you know. So they can appear to work, but then not work very well. And also, if you start up your engine and it runs all right, but it's a bit rough, could be a sign of a dodgy plug. If it won't rev, if it will rev, but then just dies, but then it'll start up again and rev and die, that could be a dodgy plug. Not necessarily carburetor problems. But anyway, or obviously if it just won't work at all, you might just have no spark at all, and then that could be the plug. Always change the plug before you go delving into points and condensers and sanding points and doing all that kind of stuff. Change the plug, test the plug out first with a new plug. Anyway, my point is, don't waste plugs, you lot. I just wanted to say that. Don't waste them. Yeah, whether you've got a 1/5 scale, a strimmer, a lawnmower, whatever you've got, but obviously we're talking mainly about 1/5 scale RC cars, because this is an RC channel. But it doesn't matter. If you do change your spark plug and the old one is still working fine, don't throw it in the bin. Clean it up, put it in your toolbox, because as I say, you might need it later on. You might go down the field one weekend and all of a sudden your car just won't work. And because that new plug you put in might be faulty, it might be something wrong with it, it might be a Chinese one, the cheap one you put in there, whatever. Get your old one back out the box, put it in the car, and it'll work, because it was working before you took it out. So there we go, my friends. Please don't waste spark plugs. Don't watch, we'll watch those videos with them, but don't follow what those people do. They might have millions and millions of subscribers, but don't forget they're rich enough to afford loads of spark plugs. But that's beside the point. With wealth comes waste, unfortunately. Wealthy people do waste a lot of stuff. Not all of them, but quite a few of them do, because they can just afford to. And that's just the truth. But when you're watching those videos of those people and they take out a plug and they say it's no good and they throw it away just because it's a bit dirty, take it with a pinch of salt, yeah, and just think to yourself, when you're with your one, and if you change the plug or whatever, do you need to throw the other one away? Think about it carefully. Think about it. If your car was still running fine when you took the old one out and put a new one in, keep the old plug. Anyway, I'll see you a lot later on. Coming quite far with the old Rush. I gave it a bit of a clean. It's looking a lot better than it was. Look very, very tidy. Very clean now. Got these wheels on it, ready for a nice test run at some point. I say a test run. I call them test runs. Really, it's just to go and have a go. But I've done some stuff to it, so it's a test run in my opinion. But I want to get this engine running absolutely minty perfect in the next time I take this out. And you know, if I feel like it, I'll probably take you lot along with me, and maybe you can come along and we'll have another little bit of a rush go. I've also got to fix the Savage Octane. The throttle linkages need to be set up, so I'm going to do that at some point soon. I'm going to do a whole video on that, because it seems a lot of people have trouble with throttle linkages for some reason. I don't know why. I get people all the time sending me a PM on Instagram saying that their car's revving up by itself, they do this happens, that happens, and they send me a little video and the throttle linkages are well off. Need to set up all the throttle linkages, so I'm probably going to do a whole video on that, but that's going to come up in probably a week or so's time, I don't know. So if you like Rushies, if you like petrol cars, if you like RC in general, stick around, because there's loads of it coming and we just love it, don't we? It's a bloody brilliant life. Treat people nicely, treat people how you'd like to be treated. Hopefully we'll have a nice happy life, and I'll see you later on. All the best.